everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cleaning and Cocktails. You know the deal. I bring in fellow cleaning business owners here to talk shop, share their story, and really get to know each other and give them a platform to speak on why they love to be in the industry. And today, I have a special guest, Kathleen. I've known her for a few years now. We're in the same circuit. We go to all the BSCI shows and ISSA shows, but there's also some additional things that I feel are relevant, and it's going to be pretty cool to talk about. But without further ado, Kathleen, thank you for taking the time. I know how busy it is to be a CEO of a growing cleaning company, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, do you want me to
I will
introduce
say,
myself?
no. So, Kathleen, I'm going to start with a cheers because this is my, I always laugh about this because I always forget to cheers. And I wanted to open up my can. I know you got your wine, right?
Yep, right here.
So let's get after it. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us.
Amazing.
Thank you, Casa Azul, for always providing the drinks that you do. Thank you so much. It makes it easier to open up and talk shop. So, Kathleen, I know some stuff about you. I've got notes on you, but I wanted to give you this moment, really just, I ask everybody, like the cleaning industry, like how did you fall into this industry and take us through the journey from the early years? Because I always find that to be the best part of this is the early years when we start in this industry.
Well, I'm so glad you asked that because today is a very special day for me. My nephews came to my office today, and so they got to experience the very initial introduction to the industry that I got when I was their age. They're 10 and 7. And even my 1-year-old niece came for a little bit as well. So my grandparents started my company in 1970. It's called My Cleaning Service. So, of course, my grandfather worked for Oriole Janitorial, and he ended up, leaving and opening his own company. And the lawyer said to him, like, well, what do you want to call it? And he said, well, it's mine. So I'm going to call it My Cleaning Service. And it's stuck, right? And then each one of my aunts and uncles, I believe, have worked through the company. My mom is one of 4. She's the baby. And then eventually she was the one that wanted to, take the reins and keep it. And then my father joined in. He's a chemist by trade. So it actually complemented really well because he understood the chemistry behind cleaning. The science behind cleaning is really something that, he got into very easily. So they, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so, because I wanted to touch on this early on to set the tone, but you just did it right now. There's 3 generations.
3 generations,
right?
Yeah.
3 generations we're talking about here right now.
It's interesting because when you talk to people in the cleaning industry, it's actually a high number of companies are family businesses and multi-generational. But overall, if you look at the scheme of business in general, it's not. So it's really fascinating. And also, I asked BSCAI years ago when I bought the company in 2020 of what is the percentage of being fully 100% women-owned in this industry? It's very low. Not just in terms of our membership, but across the country. Across the industry in general, internationally. Yeah. It's not often that you find a cleaning company that's 100% woman-owned. So I'm very, very proud of the fact that we've withstood 3 generations, and from the sound of today, there's interest on the 4th. So that's great.
That is, and how, so from that point, so you were 10, 11 when you first got into it,
yeah.
When you were growing up, did you know that, did you want this for yourself? Did you walk in and say, hey, you know what? I love what my family does. I want to be a part of this.
So I think you asked me in an email of, what's one fact that no one really knows about you? And my answer is that I wanted to be a Rockette when I was little. I thought they were amazing. And then you kind of get into it, and I was dedicated like crazy. And my instructors said, you're just not physically built for it. It's just not in the cards for you. You have to figure out something else. And I was always interested in working. Even at 14, I got a job in a greenhouse locally here, family owned. My mom was very smart about that. Yeah. So I was, dancing 6 nights a week and going to my work probably 7, sometimes days a week in the summer and stuff like that. So I really loved it. I loved working in general. I loved making my own money you know, having some spending cash at that age, right? And I had to get a permit from school actually to work,
Oh,
which
wow.
was, it was incredible, but you know, I loved it, so why not?
Yeah.
And then when I was about 10 or so, we used to like come to my office if my mom didn't have babysitting that day or something in the summer. So I remember at one point I brought my best friend for the day because obviously you need entertainment if you're going to hang out all day in an office. So we like, she was in the director of operations office and I was in the president's office, of course. And I would call her on the intercom and
Oh
boss
my
her
God.
around and tell her what to do. And they all said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm the little boss. My mom is the big boss, and I'm the little
Yeah.
boss, and I'm telling her how to do her job." And we all just thought that was just funny, right? And they made
No,
me
that,
a little company ID badge and everything. And then
but you remember that. Think about that. What you're
that was like
talking about too,
it was a
Kathleen.
very monumental moment for sure.
Like you're remembering that, and this is so funny we're talking about this because, you know, not many. So there's a place called Backyard Grill here around the corner from us. We just went there for lunch today. The woman there it's a family-owned business, Greek restaurant. Her 9-year-old daughter's behind the counter taking our order. I've never seen her before, but literally, she's like, Ricky, she wants to learn. She's like, hey, she wants to be like you. She wants to be like us. She wants to own a business. She's 9 years old, and this was the third time she's done it, and you could see that she's like remembering things. So it's just I'm fascinated with how you remember these moments. She's gonna remember those moments, and like I feel like it instills something in you. You're running a woman-owned family business right now. You didn't know it, but you were involved back then.
Right.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I never was really fully committed. Like I didn't know at that moment that was really my life track, right?
Yeah.
I kind of thought, okay, this is fun for today. And then when I grow up, I'll just figure out what I wanted to do. And I was extremely close with my grandfather who started our company. So we spent, I mean, every time I had free time from school or whatever, I was with him in Florida. You know, he taught me how to golf. Like we were literally best friends.
Yeah.
So I think that has a big influence. And he said to me, if you're going to be in this industry, I want you to be able to hold your own on the golf course. I don't want you to be left out because of any reason, whether it's, you know, I'm sure he saw a lot of gender inequality at the time. He didn't want to speak to that. He just kind of said, I just want you to be who you are. And
he's kind of telling you without telling
you. And I didn't pick up on that at the time. I was just like, yeah, I want to golf because obviously dance wasn't working out. So, and now I'm a total golf nerd. But yeah, and then my mom, you know, took me to a lot of things too. Like she was the president of NAVO at one point. So I don't know if you know National Association of Business Owners. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was my 12th birthday. Here's another monumental moment. I was wearing a lime green dress because my mom bought it special because she didn't have anywhere for me to go. And I think she felt bad leaving me on my birthday, but she was president of this organization. It was having a networking
she can do what she wants.
Fundraising
she can do
event.
What she wants.
Yeah, totally. And so she goes, you're going to come and sell raffle tickets tonight. I said, okay. And I still think that I hold the record of how many raffle tickets have been sold at a single event because who are you going to, you can't say no to a girl on her 12th birthday. Hi, would you like to buy some raffle tickets? But I think I think all of those experiences just infuse the passion. And then you realize when you grow up, right? And you realize that cleaning has a direct impact on people's lives. I mean, COVID's a huge example of that. And I think it's sad to me that people are just figuring that out.
Just figuring it out now.
Right. I was around during the advent of like sustainability, right? Green cleaning. And I had clients that, I was still in school and my mom would let me tag along and they would say, what's this green cleaning thing? And do you guys do it yet? And stuff. And the time you could charge extra for that. Now it's like, if you don't do it, it's a real problem. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're not even respected in the industry, I think, if you don't. But yeah, I remember making brochures and stuff to explain what it is.
So take me to, all right, because I'm doing like the stages of growth. Like your grandfather starts the company.
Yes.
Your mother comes in and takes over, then you've come and taken over. What does growth look like? Like today, I think you're at like 300, right? 400 employees the size of the company? Mm-hmm. Okay. Did he start with zero when he started? Was it like from scratch?
It was from scratch, but he had a friend that also helped him out with, sales. And I think they were, maybe the guy was a minority partner. I'm kind of gray for me on that.
Okay.
But the fun fact is that he started in the basement of his Baltimore row home with 4 children, right? So my grandmother is a saint.
I got that picture. I've got. I hope you got that picture. Does he got pictures of that? Because those are the best pictures.
I have a picture of the house. I don't know if I have
Okay.
any, but we have some pictures from when, we finally got an office. But it
Mhm.
was a tiny little house in Baltimore City. And then from the way my mom describes it, it's like everyone just picked up the phone and said, my cleaning service. Like you never said Rogers Residence, which I think is really fascinating, right? Even the kids' friends who came over were trained for it. So, and I think that also really helped with my mom because she was so interested in the operations side of it. She loved being in the field and going out and meeting our employees and really getting to know them and talk to them. And I find that fascinating too. I know I'm moving on from your subject just a little bit, but there's so many people in our industry that, as you grow, you lose that connection to the front line. And especially if you can't speak the language that your employees speak, I think it's really important to be able to go out there and just say, hey, I really appreciate the fact that you work for us, right? And with us, and you're aligned with our mission of what we're trying to do. So they moved up to a larger house and then eventually bought a building in Baltimore City, an office building, and then had a handshake deal with the guy next door. That's, if you ever want to sell your building, we're expanding. So eventually the guy said, hey, we're going to change. And I think they bought a different building, then did some sort of 1031 exchange or something like that. But the point is, it was really cool because at that point, my mom was starting to take over the business. And so they renovated that building to really fit exactly the needs of the business. And it's amazing to see we're still in the same building, and the use of the building, the reasons, the things that we need are so different now. And giving a tour to my nephews today, I really drove that home. Like we had an applicant room. So everything was, obviously the secure doors and things like that. The applicants come in, handwrite their paper, applications. Oh, yeah. And then there was an interview room that's double-sided glass so you could see all the way through, because at that point, you didn't even background check people. So you don't know who's there. You don't know who's in front of you, right? And so for safety reasons, we always had somebody, the visibility, right? And now everything's completely virtual online. We do have employees that come, but typically, it's for some other reason. It's not for applying. So that room is now a lobby with like really cute modern furniture and our awards and stuff like that. And then our conference room is the tech room that has all of the virtual web conferencing set up that you can imagine. And
which you've transformed, right? You've transformed from what it's been to now. Yeah.
My family didn't need that, right? And life wasn't so connected on this virtual level. And now we just invested in another upgrade, right? So we renovated slightly, not heavily, but carpet paint, just to kind of have cohesive furniture again and stuff like that. Since 1991 or 93, whenever my mom had it, to now, it's like, is really exciting to see the progression and the differences, right? So when we talk about employee count, the cleaning industry has changed. The technology industry has changed. We have an account that we've had since, I can't remember exactly, but way back there, maybe 2001 or something, right? Yeah. And it's a little one, it used to be done with more people than it is now. Same building. Hasn't changed anything. I mean, they just renovated a little bit just this year, but you actually need less people to clean today than, back in the day. Wow. So it's really hard to say the progression in terms of employee count, and
that's true.
There's just so many different fluctuations, but so
what about Kathy now? So we were talking about transformation. Because I remember this was one question I wanted to talk to you about. So you're the CEO of the company, your mom, and there was established leadership. Because I always find this interesting too, because I'm in the middle of this myself too. How has the transition been since 2020? Obviously you were a part of the business before that, but now you've acquired the business, which is another thing I want to talk about, is how you purchased it. But how has it felt? Obviously it takes time, right? We're in 2023, you did it 2020. Have you felt the full shift yet, or is it still ongoing from transitioning out?
So definitely we felt the full shift. Definitely. And don't forget, so my parents worked together. So there was a team aspect for them. They always had a partner, a business partner, right?
Oh, because you're sole one. Yeah, you're right.
I'm the first generation to be myself and have 100% of my own ownership. So that right there is a huge change that, it was like overnight almost. It was like, that was the problem. In 2020, COVID hit. Things were crazy. We cleaned primarily office space. My largest account is a hotel and conference center. It was completely shut down. I was on the phone with them every day, on video with them, trying to figure out how we're going to give them custom reentry plans and make people feel safe enough to come to their facility again. It was just wild. And so many things were changing and happening. And, we ended up having somebody retire who had been with us for 30 years and we couldn't even, give her a hug. It was wild, man. Right? Yeah. And so my parents, I think their risk tolerance was diminishing just because of, being in the industry so long. And I think it was the right time where I said, listen, I can't be running a single decision past 3 people every day. This is a rapidly transitioning time period. So that's really kind of how that conversation went. If you ask my mom, I think she'll say it's a mutiny.
But it's crazy because Kathleen, I always tell people like that was a benefit for me is I had my wife, well, she was my girlfriend at the time, and then I had my cousin. So yeah, I enjoyed having partners, right? And like people to like, hey, you're my sounding board. Hey, you're part owner too. Remember, let's talk about this. Like, yeah, being sold. So it's like 2-part for you, right? You're transitioning the ownership, but you're doing it by yourself. You're not by yourself. You got your team, you got everybody with you. Absolutely. But there's a lot of responsibility that falls on you.
Well, and it's interesting because
as a soul.
And we'll get to that piece, of course, but on my podcast, I had Jamie Henry come on, and she was talking about that transition as well, that she bought out her business partner. And that kind of initial like, woo, it's a little scary being the only one there and being responsible for so much. But when you surround yourself with, that advisory board of your, mine's my CPA, my CFO, my lawyer, my business coach.
You got people in your corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My boyfriend's a huge supporter. My parents, that kind of thing. So when I have a major decision going on, I run it past all of them. And that could take a day or two to get to everybody and have that full conversation. But you really do. You need support even if you are the own. So yes.
Yeah. So let's, and then because I wanted to talk about the purchase, so I had Mary Miller on a couple episodes ago, and then I had another gentleman on, and he bought his business from his father. Mary sold her business to her daughter. You bought so I say this because I got to tell you, in the first early years, I'm a first time business owner, first generation in my family. I was like, oh, it's my family. Oh, when somebody's ready, I'll just give them the business. Like in my mind, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to sell you my brother, my cousin, so you guys legitimize. It's professional, right? Like this is the way you have to do these things. There's a purchase price, there's shares, there's the board that you have. Like, I love how I see people's reactions sometimes when they're like, oh, you own a cleaning company? Oh, you have a board? You have an advisory board? Like, there's these big decisions that are made. I'm like, dude, hell yeah. Like, you know how big this industry is? Like yes, it's a professional organization.
Absolutely.
So I mean, attorneys involved. Like, so there's people that listen in, Kathleen. So I want to bring this up is how long was that decision and process for you because again, your family, but it's professional and you're doing it the correct way. How long was that process?
So I would say we had the idea of it for 10 years before anything occurred, right? So my parents, step by step, little by little, let me sort of take over more responsibility. I started on the marketing and advertising, sales side of things. I wasn't so much in operations because I was working remotely from school. And then eventually worked my way up through management to, get to kind of acting CEO-ish, kind of had them as a backstop as the owners. There's so many pieces of it that you wouldn't expect to happen. It's wild. There's so many different, even with your family, even though it was amicable, like everyone was fine, there's still that real fear of, what happens if my kid doesn't succeed and something that I've built is gone? Or, there's also that fear of like, okay, well, maybe I can't do it on my own. How do I support them in this transition or whatever, So, and then other things that nobody tells you these things, right? Like
Tells you.
you have to get it approved by your bank before you can sign the papers, by the way.
Mhm.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I told my banker, I'm like, guess what I did? He's like, no, you didn't. I'm like,
No,
okay.
not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No, you didn't. I'm like, oh, I didn't, so then it's so many little things and in the process that, like you said, you have to get a business valuation, you have to involve your CPA to unmuddy the waters of where the shares went and the line.
It's
And
not. Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Not muddy the waters, because again, take emotion out. There's no emotion here. This is the business. This is what it's at today, and it is what it is because this is how it's been evaluated, and that's it, right?
Right.
Like,
So
okay.
I think it's multifaceted. It's the process side that is more complicated than you would expect. Additionally, the emotional side just happens. And certain things, like even with carpet and paint updates, and my mother sitting there going, it just feels like the end of the end. I'm like, well, I've owned the company for a while. Like, what are you talking about? She was, yeah,
Right.
but now it's really yours. I think it's that emotional, sentimental thing where she remembers that feeling of getting excited. And of course, I sit at her desk. It's not like I changed her furniture. I still kept, like, she has this beautiful, like, not maybe a painting, I guess you would call it, or a portrait of an Egyptian queen, because her father brought it back from, one of his travels for her and things like that. That just, it's great to involve. But from the
So
process
that's
side, the emotional side of the buyout relating to money can be complicated with family. And I think you just have
there's
to
a lot of
build that
emotion.
trust. Yeah.
No, but no, like Kathleen, I can even hear the way you're talking about it. Like, I'm trying to think through because again, I haven't lived that experience, but like, man, it's your grandparents, then your mother. Your mother's seeing you come to life, right? Like now you're in her where
And
she
my
was
dad,
doing.
don't forget my dad, because he
Your
was a huge
dad,
piece
it's your
of
dad
it.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So like your parents, right? Like I gotta believe that's some like that's got to be a great feeling for them to see you coming to fruition, right?
Very
And
much.
yeah, there, like you said, there's fear, but this is cool. Like 3 generations. I've only met, I think, 2 other people. A guy named Connor. I don't know if you've ever met Connor. Connor's shit. I think he's like 4th generation. And then another gentleman named Sam. So yeah, I've never met too many people that are 3 generations. So you're in a very small group. I gotta believe.
Yeah, and I have to say that BSCAI really helped me on the emotional front on that. Like early on, one of my friends came up to me, just didn't say hi, anything like that at one of the conferences, and just said, be patient. It's going to be harder than you think, and you don't know how it feels to be on their side, giving up something that they've worked
Correct.
so hard, right? So
That's a
like,
good point.
don't
Yeah.
have the ego. Don't come at them saying, I can do this better than you. I know what I'm doing. Because you don't. Sometimes you do make mistakes, right? But
Yeah.
you don't understand that emotional attachment. It's like having a baby,
It is. It is.
and giving it
Yeah.
up is hard. So,
So it's almost like you got to be empathetic because that's something I want to talk to you like from the leadership standpoint. Mindset. You talked about a coach earlier. I think that's awesome. We could talk days on. I didn't have a coach until as of late. I started a strategic coach, Mary Miller. She's actually my coach. So it's like those are things that have to be getting you through these moments, right? And like we'll always be getting you through still.
yeah.
Like what are you doing to approach this from a leadership standpoint? Because you're sole, but you still have a team. But like, talk about your mindset for us
Okay.
in this
So,
role.
2 things on that. One, my coach is amazing, and I'll totally give him a shout out, Paul Greenland. I met him through BSCAI, but what's great is that he's been in my shoes. He took his family business and grew it and understands all the small little details of growth, of family dynamic, of all kinds of things. So he really is a huge resource for me. And I think you're right on that you always need someone just to bounce something off of, right? And from the leadership aspect of things, I spent years developing the team I wanted. And even still today, like, I make sure to cultivate the culture, the relationships between them. I travel quite a bit. So a lot of people say to me, well, how are you running such a successful company and not being physically in front of them all the time and, down their throats? And I said, it's kind of like, the CEO of any national company can't be in every single office
No.
of every single
Nope.
branch every day. So you have to empower people to make the right decisions, come to you if they make a mistake or fix it, and make them have that autonomy of really ownership of their own role. And once I found the right team, like what's the book, right? Get the right people in the right seats, the right bus, and then figure
Oh,
out
yeah.
where you're driving. It's literally that. And that's definitely something that I do all the time is I read constantly. I read business books, magazines, newspapers, articles, all this stuff. And I love to learn and get from other people's
Because
experiences.
you get like one or two little things all the time, right? Like as you said that right away, I went to strategic coach, give him a shout out all the time. But the Who Not How book, I don't know if you ever met Who Not How. It's a great little book. Again, all their books are nice and small, like they're 1 hour reads. You can get through them real quick. But that's to that point. Yeah, it's like the team around you. If you build rock stars and high performers, you can't step away for a moment. You can't take some time for yourself because you got to buy your time back at times, right? Like it's important as leaders because then you come back fresh. You come back
Definitely.
ready to take on another challenge.
Well, and sometimes it's for like, my peer group or for work, a conference, whatever. And you have to be able to depend on the people that are manning the ship back home, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I think is really, it's invaluable that I think that our family morals still generationally come through, right? So the person who works in my office that now she's been like promoted through a bunch of different jobs, right? So now she runs our entire special projects division. Before she was just, my grandmother taught her how to type. Like she just learned, with us, right? But the loyalty that you get on that is just unbelievable. I know that I can trust her with anything in my life. And same goes for my bookkeeper, for my HR, for my director of operations. Like we're tight. We run a small, office, but exactly that, because we're very tight. When we make a hire, we make sure that it's somebody who's going to fit within the culture of us, right? Because that dynamic has to be solid.
Kathleen, here's a question. I don't think I've ever asked this question. I just thought of it right now. Hearing you talk is there anything that's an identifier for you? Like, because it sounds like you promote from within a lot. You move people up the ladder, right? You guys have built this loyal group and team. Is there like anything that sticks out for you when you're ready to move somebody into another role, or they've been doing something for a while, now they're ready for something else? Uh, because obviously I believe you're not probably a resume person that says, here, oh, hey, this looks great. I'm going to hire you based off this resume. Is there any traits or things you look for in a person to move them up or, promote them or hire them?
Absolutely. So one, motivation. I had one that came to me and said, look, I can do it. Teach me and I'll learn and I'll do it. And that was true, right? So sometimes people just aren't given the opportunity because they feel held back. Like, I don't know enough. I can't put myself in that position because I don't know Excel well enough, or I don't know whatever, so definitely motivation, I think, is huge. In terms of promotion, I would say. The other thing, I guess, is like I have a philosophy with my team, especially when I took over, as owner, that if you have an idea, come to me. We'll try it out. We'll see if it's viable, if we can do it. You know what? Who makes a decision? One person. That's all, right? So we don't have to go up the ladder of this corporate tape and, whatever, and get this approved. And there's no bureaucracy. Just, okay, you have an idea? Let's work on it. Let's see. And if we can test it and it works, okay, let's get it going, right? So, and that's true for any of them and anything, right? If a cleaner has an idea, if, HR has an idea, like it's treated the same with the same respect. And I think that promotes that quality of people coming to you saying, this person, they're really good at what they do. They might be good in this level, the next level. Can we give them a shot? Same kind of idea, right? So like it's a true team effort too. It's not just, okay, I like this person and I think they're doing a good job, so therefore I'm promoting them. It really is a conversation with the team of who we think is doing a good job. Where can we give them some more? And I think it's what's the saying? Crawl, walk, run situation.
Oh yeah.
I can
You
never
gotta
remember
crawl.
that.
You gotta crawl. You gotta walk.
Exactly,
You
right?
gotta
So
jog
like, let's
before you
give them
can
a little
run.
bit, test them out. Okay, let's give them a little bit more. Okay, and then eventually let them work up. So I think that's a huge piece of the strategy, let's say, because then you really test people's limits, you understand them, you find out their loyalties and their, capabilities, basically. Does that
All
answer
right.
your question?
Well, hey, no, it does. Both sides. It's two-sided questions, so that was good. Usually, everybody always forgets the two-part. I'm known to ask two questions at a time, so I apologize if it's like, all right, hold on, which one do you want me to answer here? But hey, we're gonna take a quick break here. I gotta get a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Right.
I hope you enjoyed your break. I hope everybody else did too. I got my second Casa Azul here. This time I'm drinking grapefruit, you guys. So again, they come out with a lot of different flavors. I hope you guys enjoy. I've got some new stuff that I'm going to be bringing out from them on the next episode. But Kathleen, I know on the break we were talking about this a little bit, but organizations, BSCI, ISSA, we're both a part of that, but you're a part of like 20 different more.
Yeah.
Talk to us about like commitment, time, or how involved are you, how committed, and why as cleaning business owners should we be a part of organizations?
Such a great question. When I joined the company, we were a part of a bunch of associations and we didn't really attend much. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to everything, which means that you end up at networking events for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 4 days a week. It's a lot if you take on everything, right? But I really wanted to understand why my family felt like these were valuable, places to spend our time, and why were we not? And I think that a lot of it was just probably fatigue. Or lack of having someone to plug in that place if it wasn't my parents going to something. We had a salesperson one time, okay, whatever. So you're right, we do belong to a lot, and it's now with full intention. So those that we choose to be a part of, we really are fully ingrained, right? So what I did from that experience was I learned that the industry associations are where I wanted to spend my time, because not only are you getting the networking piece, which is fantastic, but also you're learning things. And so, the chamber events are great if you're a smaller company or if you're just trying to break into a market and things like that. In my opinion, it's stronger for me to go to something like the BWI partnership, right? That's all about the community around the BWI airport. It's bringing in developers, it's bringing in architects and others from the commercial real estate field, property management, all these things, because that neighborhood is a development, right? So like all things relate to, at the end of the day, all things relate to cleaning. So that helps,
Yeah.
But it's not cleaning focused, right? It's location focused. But then something like NAIOP is also incredible for a similar reason. You get education about the construction and development industry. You get education on tenant occupancy and retrofitting buildings and all kinds of things that it's really valuable to know that type of thing so that that way you can speak educatedly to your potential clients or within your industry in general. So I think that that's the major piece for us was choosing correctly. And like you said, BSCAI has just been an absolute godsend to us. Like we've been a member for a very long time. I know that. And I was actually president for a decent amount of time of our local chapter. We only have the one. But
oh yeah, they had what did they have? The Mid-Atlantic, right?
the Mid-Atlantic.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay,
it used to
cool.
be the Capital Association of Building Service Contractors. And then when I was president or somewhere right in there, we decided that we were going to roll it into BSCAI. And I think that's
Got it.
because it used to be that that was for the local companies who couldn't travel to the conferences. They couldn't get the education they needed on the national scale or just weren't big enough to need that. And of course, through the years, everyone in our region has grown quite a bit. So
Yeah,
we're all members of BSCI already, and we felt like it was duplicating, right? So
got it.
creating value made the most sense. But I'm telling you, like during the pandemic, I don't know if you were on
I did a couple of the town halls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a
We
couple
had
of the town halls.
We had a weekly standing town hall, and I went from the crew happy hour to the town hall or one or the other. It's great because it was like my one moment to really understand what was going on in the industry nationally. From people were trying to find sprayers and disinfectants and all kinds of those, you know, who has hand sanitizer? I do. I'll send you some, that kind of thing. It was crazy. And I think that that's where a lot of people found value as well. And then, you know, you get to the educational pieces that they're doing now with, not that this is an advertisement at all for BSCI. I love it,
Yeah.
but still, it's the same in a lot of industries where, okay, organizations, they used to have a webinar. Okay, we're going to have a webinar and listen in, it's free, whatever. Now it's like, wow, you can charge like $170 or something for an all-day summit or a symposium type of thing.
Oh yeah,
And it's great because
we did.
there's no travel costs. So yeah, of course, like I can be anywhere and listen to it, and it's great. And they record it later so you can watch it. You can, you know, share it with a friend if you want, like to listen in and stuff. It's great.
It's resourceful. So like, as people are listening, because this is one area I advocate as much as I can, Kathleen, is like how important the BSCI was, ISSA, the local chamber of commerce. But I think you nailed some good points. Is each one has its own purpose, though, right? Like if you're joining a certain one, like you said, BWI. So I'm in Baltimore, Kathleen, because you're from Baltimore. That is your niche. That's it. Like, do you venture off outside of Baltimore area? Like, are you okay?
Yeah.
So then, do you join those organizations too, or again, you want to stay?
No, no, we're not just simply Baltimore. We're primarily the Baltimore, DC, Northern Virginia area, right?
Okay.
So
I always forget too. Yeah, DC, Baltimore,
it's
Virginia,
all right
like,
there.
It's all right there. Okay.
And we partner with other companies too. Like some people have clients where they work with that client across our entire portfolio, and occasionally it's on the north side of Baltimore, and they're over here in the south side of DC, and they're like, I don't want to cross two beltways to get up here. So we partner in the same way back down. If there's someplace that we can't, you know, like a little too far out, we work with our partners and make sure that it's a seamless feeling for our clients as well. But yeah.
So see, that's a whole like another episode or I love that you said that, because again, you know, affiliate partnership, subcontracting, partnership in general, like that is the beauty of being open to that and doing that, because you're like, think about it, these national clients, Kathleen, like, yeah, they'd love one company to do it all, right? But that's just not possible all the time, right? So if we partner and we team up with other fellow cleaning company owners, that's why, as competitive as our industry is, it's still awesome to work with each other. We got to be partners.
It really is. Like you have to almost play nice in the sandbox, but at the same time, like they're friends of mine half the time.
Yeah,
so they might be a client of yours, and you're on the same walkthrough together. And one point I had, you know, we were talking about a construction cleaning project going on, and you know, my client, friend, whatever, competitor calls me and says, hey, I know this is last minute, but I really need a bid from you. We're doing this project. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm bidding it. But if you get it, I'll do it for you, you know?
Yeah, vice versa.
So we'll work it out, you know?
But you see, like, the fact that you can talk about it, like, people got, again, yes, it's competitive, but like it's also so much fun to win business together.
Right.
Like, dude, we all win when we win those kind of contracts. Because then, no offense to the big guys, uh, but the small to medium size can scale together. We can grow nationally if we team up
Absolutely.
on
It's
big
very true
projects.
on that. Like, we had one bid that we were working on, and you couldn't even submit pricing if you didn't qualify, right? So right off the bat, you knew you were going up against like the national companies, and we were one of six that qualified, and we were the smallest one, honestly, just to be on that level competing against companies who have all the certifications, they have all
Yeah,
the education, they have the scale, the bandwidth to do it all, and to be respected that we're on the same level. It's huge, right?
oh
Like
yeah,
that to me
yes.
just really, it was an honor, honestly.
Oh man,
To
and then Kathleen, I mean, you're young too. So how awesome is it that you got? I feel like you've been in this industry for 30 years, and you're talking with a lot of experience from it. So I gotta believe that you are a sense of inspiration for a lot of other women owners, and I have a lot of women business owners that listen in, Kathleen, too. So this is great.
yeah,
Where
kudos to
you
them.
know,
That's awesome.
they're have kids at home. The kids have grown up, and they're like, Rick, I think I could do this. I want to get into the space. I used to do it back before I had my kids, and now my kids have grown up, and I think I can do it. So they need to hear stories like this to know, like, hey, here's this woman's story, young, growing a business, not easy, never easy, uh, but it's a sense of inspiration for people. I think because everybody thinks this industry is it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but it's very lucrative and is opportunistic, right? It's as opportunistic as we want to be, and let's talk about the future now. Like you're here today, you're doing what you're doing. Talk to us about what are the next 5 years look like for my cleaning for MCS.
Well, I love that you asked that question because at the beginning of this year, we did our 5-year goal setting. So we're really looking for rapid growth at this point. So we've, kind of buckled up and we're prepared for growth. And hopefully in 5 years, we've doubled in size is our BHAG, which is so scary to say out loud. But, I think,
You got to say it out loud. I
yeah,
love BHAGs. BHAGs got to be
yeah.
said out loud all the time.
Exactly. Well, and it's great because what we did was put the team in alignment. So they understood we're going to measure, we're going to track, we're going to celebrate the small wins when we get, a brand new day porter account to a brand new huge building. Like it doesn't matter as long as we're moving that needle forward, and figuring out where we're falling short and not by pointing fingers at a teammate who's maybe not pulling their weight properly. Maybe they made a mistake. Well, how can the rest of the team pitch in and help and figure out how to, keep pushing it forward? So it's been a really exciting year just from that alone, that we looked at our
Uh,
track record and then we're like, you know what? We can do this. If we just do what we did the last few years and figured out
yeah.
that it's exciting. There's
Well,
a
think and the BHAG again. I love that word. I love the concept. I feel like, and you kind of touched on it. You set it up where you can measure. Like the coolest part when we did ours, Kathleen, was like I got to see. Okay, there's the number, right? The revenue number you want to get to. Now let's like back it up. Like how many employees are we going to need to hire? How many supervisors are we going to need to hire? What's the next manager? What's the next like? And then you like dice it down to where it's attainable, right? Like, okay, well, the first 3 months we got to do this before we even do all that. And I tell you, the team at first when I did ours, they were freaking out. They're like, "Dude, how are we going to hit that? We can't hit that number. There's no way." Boom, 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 boom. Oh wow, yeah, we could get to that one. I'm like, yeah, well, there's the small one. Let's get there. But it's like it was our first time. I don't know about you, but it was our first time to include them
yeah.
in that, and it was important. It was
Exactly.
important.
It was the first time we had sort of a more open conversation about the reason why and what our plan was and things like that. Because really, I wanted them to be a part of that process, right? Like, can we do this? Do we think we can do this? Are we ready for this? And I think it's really interesting. There's a book that's known in the industry called Plateaus of Growth, I think.
I've heard of
And
it. Yeah.
it's really good. And it's still very true today. It was written quite a while ago, and I would recommend it to anyone looking to scale their business to the next level, because it really does talk about like your challenges, the things that you would face going to 1 million in revenue, that getting to 2.5, getting to 5, getting to 10. Like there's different challenges along the way, and it does kind of work like that, where you skyrocket and then you kind of like level off. Okay, let's figure things out. What just happened? And then
Yeah.
you do it again. So it feels like that, right? That you're kind of like in that like movement zone, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, let's figure it out. Like a friend of mine has a company that they got a lot of large contracts, but there's some, I can't remember the exact phrase, but you shouldn't have like so many large contracts that if you lost one, it'll ruin your company, right? So you have to supplement that with some little guys, just so that you have that float. If for some reason some catastrophic thing happens, your client decides to move to Guam and you don't have that contact anymore, something like that happens, and you don't have the business, you can at least offset it with the others until you can regain another one. So I think it's
because you're ramping up, right? You're ramping up to sustain and maintain that account, to where if you lose it, it's like, oh shit, well, what do I do with everything I just worked to get to this, to manage it? No, that's why not all business is good business, right? Not all big wins are great wins for you as a company.
Well, right. And you also have to be prepared. Like if a client relationship isn't going well, if you're not getting paid, if you're not able to, if they're, taking advantage of you in some way, I think it's important to recognize you have to qualify your clients just as much as they qualify you. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right. So I've had this question since the beginning. I wanted to talk about it, is because this is not easy, right? As far as to launch a podcast, Kathleen. So talk to me about, because I think is it this year that you launched, right? Is it the first episode was this year, or when was the first episode?
Might have been December of last year, I think.
Okay.
Something like that.
Almost.
I don't know.
Almost.
I should know that.
It's still recent.
So really recent. Yes.
What, I love podcasts. I think it's awesome that you did this for yourself, right? Because I think it gives you a platform, but then it gives your network and your people and your brand and your team a platform. Well, how did it come about though? Like what made you take that jump? Because it's you're busy, you're running a company, you've got your family, you've got a lot, and this takes time. Look at right now, we took an hour out of our time right now.
It takes time.
What made you do it? What made you jump into this crazy world?
Yeah. Sure. Well, I think the true answer is that I was having a public perception issue with my personal brand, right? So as a business owner, you are your company. And from the company side of things, I mean, our clients are thrilled with us. They can't sing our praises. It was like amazing. And then little by little, I had people who were like adjacent to the industry. So not my clients, not potential clients, but people just in general, like just having somewhat of a negative concept. And I don't know really where it stems from. It could be social media, it could be anything, but I kept getting these comments. Like I told you before, how do you travel and have such a successful company? It's not negative in terms of like your company isn't doing well or that it's a problem that you travel. It's just how. And it came off somewhat negative. And I'm not saying that that's for everybody, but I wanted a platform, a forum to be able to have my own opinions and showcase myself as the expert I am in cleaning, in business in general. And so I decided to launch a podcast talking to other leaders, basically, about leadership, about business, about growing your business, about community leadership. So that's really where it was born from, is the fact that I wanted to, one, I love to learn, but two, I wanted to position myself correctly so that people really saw the true me and didn't come up with the inventing things of what they thought.
No, that is awesome. That's the first. No, like, I have a very big different reason, but like now, that really touches on, like, you're right. So there's a perception of the company, and then there's you, right? So what it does for you, Kathleen, right, is your credibility because you do get to speak, right? You get to speak on the platform that you have built yourself. And I think you said you brought Jamie. I'm going to have Jamie actually on an episode. I'm actually going to do a walk and talk.
Nice.
That's it.
I
That's all I'm
love
going to
that.
talk about. That's all I'm going to tell people about. But she's a badass, right? She's here
It's
local in
badass.
Chicago. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, I had Jason out there, Jason Lee.
Of
I know he's
course.
in that area too. But like, think about what it does for you is you've got network of people that I haven't even met. So you're gonna bring people on, share their story, talk shop, and like I feel like then our networks grow, right? Because then like
Right.
I've had you here, you're bringing people on that. Oh, I never met that person. I got to make sure I talk to them at the next step. But it comes from you making the connection.
Well,
again,
it
from a
has.
totally different world.
It totally has opened my network quite a bit. Like I was, I was away traveling, and I said like I like to have the in-person meetings or podcasts because I think you get so much from it, right? But
I recommend when you can. I would recommend you do a couple.
but I couldn't at the time. So
Mhm.
I said to my business coach, "Do you know anybody in California that would talk to me who's already intentionally far away? That way, it's not something I don't feel like I'm missing that in-person opportunity. I probably would never get to talk to that person because of the industry that he's in, right? And that's the CEO of Client Point. I'm sure you know them, but
Go ahead. Is that Lawrence?
no,
Or no?
Andy Jednak.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, he's amazing. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's really cool.
Well, think about it. And then all right, so you said California. So you're traveling, you're not in Baltimore. So again, that's another piece. I was actually going to recommend that too is I'm going to Denver in a couple weeks or like in a month. Same thing. I know I pinged some people. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in Denver. Let's meet up. I got, my videographer, big shout out to Jesus. I feel like this guy travels because of me now. You're welcome. But like we go places, and that's what I'll do, Kathleen, is I'll send a message and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be in, Dallas, Texas for the next couple of days. Anybody in the cleaning industry that wants to just meet up and let's talk shop. So you're going to be thinking of this. I'm telling you now, mark my words, because you have this going on. It becomes enjoyable. You get to meet
It's
people
so fun.
you never would have met.
Mhm.
You never would have met them in person. And again, you guys talking shop and sharing the content, it helps us in the industry because you start to spark interest when we never would have had it in some of the things you're talking about.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, like one of my friends, good friends for a long time, Paul Senecal, we were having lunch one day and he said, well, why haven't I been on your podcast? And I said, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it yet. And his episode, I'm telling you, have him on, please, and share his episode with your listeners because it is so valuable about what he was discussing about scaling his business, deciding to, sell, talking about his business partner, Michael Diamond, who I absolutely adore. I think that conversation, we wouldn't necessarily have had that, even though being such good friends, I can ask him anything, but having this forum gives you that opportunity to ask questions that you wouldn't necessarily ask. And then you might learn something that you didn't know too.
100%. Like I'm telling you, I already know some things that we'll talk about when we see each other
For sure, of course.
at the next show, because it opens people up. And then now somebody will get to know you versus not knowing you, but because you're here, they're going to reach out.
And I feel like I'm creating relationships and networking through that I wouldn't necessarily have. And a lot of people, they're very similar to me in my ideas and my thought process because I'm a leader and I enjoy hearing about other people's experiences as a leader. Yeah. So right off the bat, like it's obviously people that I enjoy. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So as we come to an end here, Kathleen, because it's been awesome. I want you to think about, is there anything you want to leave? Again, the audience, just to recap on that, is a lot of small business owners in the cleaning space. There are a lot of mid to larger size as well. But we have, manufacturers, suppliers, a lot of industry people listening. What would you like to share or leave people with for the rest of 2023 going into 2024 that you're excited about in the cleaning industry?
That I'm excited about in the cleaning industry. I wasn't expecting you to go that route with that question. So. Yeah. I'm really excited to see just what we have from the knowledge of what we just experienced in COVID, right? I always say to people, I wouldn't go back through an airport that doesn't have the same security of, now versus before 9/11. I don't want to go back to what we were before COVID. I think now people have really connected and understood the impact that commercial cleaning has. And I think that in itself is extremely exciting. We're coming up on cold and flu season and back to school and all these different things, and understanding that we are the people that prevent the spread of illnesses and disease is incredible. And if you just realize that and you communicate that message to people, I think that our industry is just, it's going to take off even more so.
Well, see, because I was about to end, but now you made me think about something
Sorry.
else. But no, no, but like as you said that, no, what's your thoughts on indoor air quality?
I actually
Right?
we just wrote a blog post about it.
Like I literally am learning about it, and I actually am pretty shocked, or I'm like I did not know
There's
the
so much to it.
percentages, and like, dude, there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. So what I can tell you is that, sick building syndrome is real, and that the indoor air quality is very important. There was a study, I want to say in the 80s or something, that basically people spend so much time inside in the environments, right? Think about it, like especially in the winter, we're in buildings, and in the summer on a hot day, we're in buildings. We go to work, we just go home, right? And so that indoor air quality that you are breathing in is so important. That's like we talked about at the beginning of the episode with the advent of sustainability. Understanding that HEPA filtration really does remove the microns, right? Really does clean the air. And in a proper green cleaning program, of course, you're spraying onto a cloth and then applying it to a surface. Of course, with COVID, you're now spraying disinfectant everywhere. But outside of that, it's having color-coded systems so you're not cross-contaminating, your surfaces and things, so that way the environment that you're in, living, breathing, working in, playing in, whatever, is just as clean, if not cleaner, hopefully, than the outside world.
Well, so I think Dinesh was the gentleman I was talking to. I was introduced to him from the ISSA team, and he has an IAQ company. He threw out some stats to me like, Rick, I love that you guys are, you're a BSC, you guys perform the services that you do, but do you realize cleaning only covers 20% of the pathogens or the bacteria that's out in a commercial space? 80% is in the air. So you guys actually don't even clean the spaces. You need the indoor air quality combination, right? So we were talking shop on it, and I was like, what? I was like, are you serious? And like, he's like, no, I'm telling you, there's data, there's science, and like, he's like, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole, but I'm like, dude, I need to get you.
And that's just on a normal day. Think about all of this smog that we've been having coming down from the fires in Canada and this heat wave from here and all kinds of different stuff. You need to have clean air and it not be coming in. Like, it needs to be filtered when it comes in as much as it does, So there's so much to it that it's, again, this is what my main passion for the industry, this is where the drive comes from for me, is that it literally connects to your health, your friend's health, the people that are in the environment. So,
well, Kathleen, I got to tell you, like, anybody who doesn't think you don't know your shit, if they just listen to what you just said the last 3 minutes, like, damn, a lot of stuff that, and again, this is where, like, you walk the walk and you talk the talk. Right? So I appreciate you sharing that.
You're so awesome.
I would say,
thank you.
I would tell you one last thing, because I feel like maybe you want to say something else too, but anything you want to leave the audience with, or from your point, because I know I directed you in the question of from the cleaning industry, but you as a leader, leave us with something from, again, you're a young CEO, Kathleen, right? Like, and you have a lot more years to build the BHAG vision that you have. Leave us with any thoughts from a leadership standpoint, because again, like I told you, there's a lot of women owners on the show that listen in, that could really push them and motivate them to say, there's a lot more to look forward to in me starting a cleaning company or continuing to build a cleaning company.
Well, first of all, shout out to them, because it is a tough position to be in, for sure. And I can tell you, anybody who has a question about anything, any of one of your listeners is more than welcome to call me and email me, text me, whatever. I'm happy to lend advice from that aspect. You're right. I am a young CEO, but at the same time, I've learned a lot. I absorbed a lot when I was a kid listening, and I think that's sort of it. Don't take a conversation that you're listening to for granted, right? And you can learn, right? A lot of my friends didn't go to college and they own successful companies. You don't have to have that proper education to not, be able to succeed, right? You can teach yourself. So I think that not only do you just, how do I say this nicely? Sorry.
Oh,
I'm so tripped up because I'm so excited about what I want to tell you, but essentially learn. Just be a sponge, right? And
yeah.
if you have a setback, don't think that it's the only one. It's just because you haven't experienced that yet. Every time you go through something, a challenging experience, you'll build on that. Or use your network. Ask them, because maybe they've been through it and they know, and like I said, reach out, call me, call somebody else in the industry. We're all very friendly and we're all willing to help each other succeed because it's really for the greater good of the industry. So
Awesome. Well, to that point, we do put all of your information in the description of the YouTube. So thank you for saying you would pick up the phone and answer.
I will.
But yeah, everybody, as I always do, I'll share your LinkedIn profile, share the company name, the email. Like you said, I'm sure anybody here can reach out and talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. I know we actually went a little bit over, but that's what happens when you're having fun. So I want to say cheers, Kathleen, to you, and cheers to the rest of the industry. And thank you guys for tuning in to Cleaning and Cocktails. Until the next one, talk to you guys again.